So I'm fixing to go do a little quick inspection. I can't do a whole bunch this week. My stomach's still real sore from that surgery, so I'm kind of trying to take it easy. But one thing I want to do is get I want to do this. I seen a video the other day of somebody where they took a mini mating nook and they put, like 6 or 8 queen cups in there, and then used that as a cell builder. And it worked really well for them. They took all the cells, they drew them out. And so I want to do this versus, I think I'm going to try this first versus trying to make one of my hives temporarily queenless or any of that stuff. I know using a cloak board isn't difficult, but I think this might be a little bit more advantageous for me, because I can just take a couple, a frame of bees and shake them in here, and then I'm going to use a quart jar and feed them syrup. I am going to put a board on the bottom of this, like a landing board with a shim, because these frames are right at the bottom of this styrofoam. But I'm just going to take a little bit of glue and put these in there like that. And I think I'm going to put like 4 on each frame, on 2 of the frames. So then that'll be 8. I'm going to do them like that and give this a shot. And based off the video I watched the other day, I think it's going to work really well. So I have 2 frames here with 8 cells, and then I'm going to put wax sheets in these other 6 frames, and then have a quart jar on top with sugar syrup in it. So that's going to be how I think I'm going to try to graft queens this year. I think this is going to be my best option, and I have about 10 of these set up. So I think it'll work really well, especially if I start producing, so I could produce 80 queens with 10 of these and not really have to mess with my colonies too much. I've got the colonies ironed out to a point to where, I've got everything figured out with them. They're pretty stable. They're all making honey, and I really don't want to mess them up too much. But as soon as I get this done, I'm gonna go out and do some peek in inspections. I'm not moving boxes or anything. I'm just kind of see where they're at. I have some pollen sub. I think I'm gonna add to if they're not moving up into the super, I'll add some pollen sub patty and try to get them to come up in the super. That's really about it. So I'm gonna get this done, and I'm gonna get out there and do some inspection type activities. Well, I got this all finished up. So I got 4 queen cell cups in those first 2 frames. And then the other 6 frames have a wax sheet in them, so they'll have something to get started on. And then I took the lids and I carved out this section, and I cut the hole for the jar here. But I had to carve this out because this only sits like not even a 1/4 inch above the frames. It's real close to the top of the frames. So they would have only been able to get to the jar like on these first 2 frames right here. But that way they can come from back here straight up to the jar and then back. I just figured that'd be a good idea. But the jar will just go in like that. And then it's got a little landing board with a little small entrance. And I'm actually gonna put a hole right here and I'll probably put it right here. I'll probably put a hole right here, and then I'm gonna put some screen in there so that it'll have good ventilation. It won't be too hot. But from what the research I've done and seen, it seems like these the ones done in styrofoam actually do better because they don't get hot. They stay a little bit cooler than the wood would get. So I'm gonna get this painted up, and then I think tomorrow I'm gonna try to graft eggs into those 4 cups. And well, actually tomorrow I'll probably get this set up with bees in it, and then it's got to set inside for 3 days, and then the 4th day, so maybe Friday I'll be able to graft eggs into it and see if we can't get some queens raised from those buckfasts we got. This is kind of the state they're in. They all look really active. So we're gonna get in there and do just a quick peek. I'm basically just gonna take the lid off and look and see how far their progress is in the supers. Like this one right here doesn't have a super, so they had I don't know, 2 or 3 frames left to draw. So I'm going to be checking, just peeking in, looking, seeing if they got those frames done or not. If they did, I'll bring a super out and put on it. And then I've got one down there that doesn't have a super in the 4 white ones. I'm not going to be adding a super to it because the queen had stopped laying eggs. She was a little bitty queen, and I'm guessing she just ran out of eggs. And so I had actually removed her and put in a queen cell last weekend. So it's going to be a couple weeks before I even mess with that box. And then the 3 nooks that I have down there, their queens should have emerged this week. So it's going to be like 3 weeks before I mess with them again. The one next to the 3 nooks is a blue hive, a single deep blue hive. That queen, she was from 2 of the other nooks that I made, and then one of those 2 didn't come back from mating, so I combined those last week into one 10 frame. I'm not gonna mess with them this week. I'm gonna wait probably till next week to even look at those. And then the last 3 on the end down there, the first 2 of those 3, they have queens that are laying. They haven't they haven't blown up the way I would have expected them to. They've had a month to really lay eggs and increase their population, and they haven't really made a lot of progress. So I am going to be looking in those 2 and seeing what they're doing, because I may need to requeen those 2. And then the 2 big ones here in the middle, I'm just going to be looking at supers and seeing what they're doing. So that's kind of the gist of it, but mostly just looking, taking a quick peek. I'll probably take a little clip of inside the top of each one and see how they're doing. I think I'm going to start on this end though and work my way down. That way I'm starting in the shade kind of. Once we get past noon here, there's not a lot of shade. There'll be a little bit of shade over here, but past noon there's not much shade over here. So I want to try to stay in the shade as much as I can for a minute. It's going to get hot out here standing in that bee suit, standing in the sun. So these guys are up there drawing these frames out. They got a little nectar stored in that side. They're starting to draw them out. But even so, it's not a lot of bees up here. So I am going to put a quarter of a pollen cell patty up here, just to kind of help encourage them to come up there and work. They got all these frames burr comb to the bottom there. What I did is I just took some pollen cell patties and cut them into quarters, and I'm just going to put one up here just to kind of incentivize them to come up, more bees to come up. The more bees that come up there, the more work they'll get done. So looking through this one, they pretty much got every frame drawn out, at least like to this point. But every one of them are full of nectar. So I'm gonna add a super to this one. Hopefully they'll move some of that honey up, because they got this whole top deep full of honey now. There's a little bit of brood left up there, but there's definitely not any room to put more brood. So I'm not gonna pull the top box off and look at the bottom. It'll just be what it'll be. I am gonna bring a super down here and put it on, and then I'll move on to the next one. They still haven't moved up in the super on this one, but they still had one frame in the bottom that they're drawing. But all the other frames, everywhere the brood was emerging, they've backfilled with nectar. So they're turning this box into a super already. So I'm gonna leave this super on. I just went ahead and added some pollen sub to the top. That should help them move up a little bit quicker. So this is number 2 out of the 4 right here, and they're doing good. They're up in there. They got 5 frames they're working on. They're started on the 6th frame, so they're working on 6 up here. Looks like they got 2 almost done. Yeah, it's actually pretty heavy. So they got some nectar in that one. They got it almost drawn out. Looks pretty good. So yeah, they got 2 almost completely drawn out. Little piece of burr comb down there I'm gonna have to get. So I was just taking a second look at these, because like I said, they got 3 of them drawn out almost all the way, and then they're working on this outside one, and they're working on these 2 in the middle right there. And then I look, and they got a little bit of honey, like they've got some nectar stored right there, and they've got nectar stored right there. And I was like, hold on, that looks like a honey cap. Now I look, and there's definitely brood in there. You can see that little sucker down in there. So they're not quite making this a honey super. They're putting brood up there, which is fine. They can make as much brood as they want right now. So they're trying to build up and make more brood as well. So that's good. That means in the next like couple weeks, maybe 2 weeks, I know I'll be able to add another super to this hive, and by then, so like 3 weeks from now, this brood will be emerging, or will have emerged. So their population will probably double in the next 3 weeks. So that's really good. I'm glad they're doing good. These guys, they were about 2 or 3 weeks behind this one, because I had to give them a frame to remake. Their first queen didn't take, so they had to make a second one. So they're maybe a month behind. I guess you could say a month behind these 2 middle ones, which isn't the end of the world. You know, they'll be okay. But they're doing really good. I'm happy to see they got that many frames drawn out, because it's only been, this box has been on here 2 weeks, and they've got 4 frames pretty much completely drawn out, and then the 5th and the 6th they're working on. So really happy about that. This is the 3rd hive. They're just starting to do bridge comb between the bottom frames. They haven't really started working any of these frames. It doesn't look like. They are up here eating the pollen sub I put up here, so that's good. It gets the bees traveling back and forth, and then over the course of the next week, I'm sure they'll start working on these frames. It looks like they're real close. So, nothing to do there. Just put the lid back on. This hive, they went queenless about last month sometime. They made a new queen. They seem to be doing really well. Their population's good. They're up here. They've got up here in the super. They're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're working on 6 frames out of the 10, so they're doing pretty good. I'm gonna add pollen sub to this one, and then I'm gonna take a look at this one and see how that monster's doing. That's probably gonna be the biggest hive this year. But again, when that pink box went queenless, I just did a combined on them and just set that pink box on top of the blue one or the purple one, and so hopefully because of that, because there's basically 2 full double deeps of bees, they're gonna make a bunch of honey this year. So this is out of the big hive. They've got everything drawn in that first super, and they're starting to cap everything. They've got it pretty much halfway or more than halfway on all the frames. This one is like the last one they're doing, but I just put a starter strip in that one, so they had to draw the whole sheet out. They're just now starting on the second super, but looks like I'll be pulling this super to extract pretty soon. Probably in the next week or 2, I'll get to pull this super off and extract it while they're working on the second one. So I'm very happy about that. Looks really good. It's real clear nectar, honey. So hopefully it'll be really good. Really happy about their progress. I mean, they're packed in there, but you know, they are a full double deep, so they got lots and lots of bees in there. Lots of bees. I'm just curious. I'm kind of curious how much honey they got in that deep now. I kind of want to pull this super off and check how much honey they're putting in that deep. I may do that real quick just to take a glance. So I did pull the super off, and I looked in this pink box. And, you know, all these hives I had pulled brood out of here and there to make these other splits. And for whatever reason, in this pink box, they had like 3 of the frames that were new frames in there, like halfway drawn out. And then one of the frames was like this, just barely drawn out, and this frame had extra wax put on it, so I don't know why they're not drawing it out. They started a little queen cup right there. I don't know why they're not drawing it out. It's just, I guess I'm telling you, these bees, they do not like these plastic foundation sheets. So I pulled this frame out and I stuck a wax sheet foundation, a frame in with a wax sheet foundation. And for whatever reason, when I put them wax sheets in, they start drawing them immediately. There's no hesitation. They don't draw it halfway. They draw the whole thing out immediately, like within a week. This frame's been in there like probably over a month, and they just haven't hardly touched it, you know. And it, like I said, this is a frame that I put extra wax on. And you can see like where they've robbed wax off of it. But this is all they drew. And it's like, it don't make no sense to me. The only thing that makes sense to me is they don't like some of these plastic foundations they don't like. Now, I bought those black plastic frames, like Pierco frames. They love those. I stick those in, it's just like the wax sheet. They immediately draw them out. They don't draw them wonky like this, a little bit of comb here, a little bit of comb there. So moving forward, I'm not buying these anymore. And price wise, it's not worth it. If I buy the bulk order or the Pierco, like the black plastic frames like I have, you get 72 of them wax coated, and it's like, I want to say it's like $3.50 a frame, we'll say. Well, this frame, if I got to buy a box of 100, because the price went up on frames, so I buy a box of 100 frames, that's $190. And then I buy 100 of these plastic foundations, that's like, it's like $6 a frame. So they like the Pierco plastic frames better anyways. So I'm just going to start buying the Pierco plastic frames, and then all these foundations like this that I have are coming out. And all the wood frames I have will get wax sheets. And I'm just going to use wax sheets in these wooden frames. I'm not putting any more of these plastic foundations in. It's just, this is ridiculous. Like, it's every time I try to put these in a hive, I get the same result. They might draw one or two out, but then the third one or the fourth one's going to wind up like this. And they just don't ever draw it out. The bad thing is, this foundation was covered in bees. But you know what they were doing? They were stealing wax. You can see, like, all this area here, they've cleaned the wax out, and all these cells here still have wax in them. But then all these other spots, they've just been robbing the wax off of it. So all they're doing is going in there and robbing the wax off of it and not drawing it out. Like, that doesn't help me build the colony up, you know? So I'm pulling all these out. I'm tired of them. These bees, my bees, I don't know about everybody else's bees, but my bees do not like these foundations. And it doesn't matter if I put wax on them, if I don't put wax on them. Like, I've tried a whole bunch of wax. I've tried just a little bit of wax. Like this frame, I didn't put a ton of wax on. I put some wax on, enough where there was like extra wax, you know, where they could like take it and start drawing out the foundation. But they weren't even doing that. Like the little bit of comb they did draw, because it's brown like that, I would be willing to bet that they drew that off of the pollen sub that I put in there. And I mean, you can see how all this wax is brown. It's not white wax, it's brown. So that tells me that they were using the pollen sub when they drew this out. And then this is a little bit white, but you know, they're not drawing any of this out. They're just coming back, robbing the wax off, you know, and then not drawing it out. So I'm done with these plastic foundations. I'm not using any of them anymore. It's just, and price wise, it's not worth the money, because like if I buy like say I buy a 6 stack, I can buy a 6 box beehive off the internet for $200, no frames. And then I got to put frames in it. So I got to put 60 frames in it. Well, I can get 60 frames for $3.50 a piece, or I can pay $6 a piece. I mean, it's only logical to me that I'm going to use what the bees like more and what's almost half the price. So I'm not doing this anymore. This just aggravates me. So I was just taking a quick peek in this this hive where I combined the 2 nooks last week. They're doing really good, but she's only over here on like these 5 frames, and she's got like 4 of those laid up with eggs. They've got 1 frame that their cap is capped brood, and then they've got like 3 frames of honey, and then they had 1 frame in there that they were working on, and I pull it out and it's the same thing, where they've came and they've stripped the wax off all this and they just stopped drawing it. So I pulled that out, and this side is even worse. They barely even drew anything on that side. And then what they were going to draw on this side was just going to be wonky comb like this, where it's just going to be coming out away from the frame, which is horrible because as soon as you try to pull that frame out, you're just going to rip up through the middle of the next one. So I put these in. These are the wax sheets, and I just take and I melt some wax and I like glue them in like this. Sometimes I go all the way across, sometimes I don't. Like on the bottom there, I just put a spot on each side and a spot in the middle. And man, they draw these things out in like a week. So moving forward, this is all I'm going to start pulling these out. Any of these frames that they've done like this and they've only drawn like half of it, I'm just going to start pulling them out and replacing them with these wax sheets. I've got like 300. I ordered like 300 of those wax sheets last month, so I got plenty to start doing it. So when I run across these, I'm just going to pull them out. I'm going to scrape them off, get the honey and the wax that's in there. I'll put it in a jar to put on my counter, and I'll put the wax in my little wax bin, and I'm going to throw these away. I'm not using them anymore. So this is one of the Buckfast queens, and they're doing good. She's got like 5 frames laid up with brood. They've only got 8, but I put a feeder in because they were one of the hives that had a couple. They had two frames to draw, and this is what they did with 2 gallons of sugar syrup. I put 2 gallons of sugar syrup in there last week. This frame had extra wax on it. You can see the yellow wax down in the cells. I put just a little bit of extra wax on it. And this is what they did in a week. They took all the sugar syrup and they drew that in a week. So I took both of those out. I put 2 wax sheet foundations in, and like I said, I'm just not using those plastic foundations anymore. These 2 wax sheet foundations that I put in, I guarantee you when I come back next week, they'll be like over halfway drawn. I guarantee you. So what I'm going to do is once I finish these other 2, I got 2 more to check real quick. As soon as I finish them other 2, I'm going to come back and I'm going to give them a little bit of sugar water just to help them draw them frames out. So this is the last one. They've pretty much got, this is the outside frame, and it's almost capped. This side's not, they haven't capped that side yet, but this is the Buckfast, that queen that came from the one on the other end, the one that I want to graft from, and she is doing exceptional. She's on pace with that other hive that has a double deep as far as honey production already. So you can't say, oh, well, Italians make more honey. Listen, these Buckfasts are making just as much honey as them Italians are. And these guys, I don't even use smoke with most of these Buckfast colonies. I don't even pick up the smoker. It's sitting like 10 feet away. And you pull the frame out and they're just chilling. Like, they're not jumping at you. They're not headbutting you. They're not hitting your hands. So this one, they're gonna keep their second super because they're pretty much done with this first one. I mean, this 3rd frame right here, they've got it's capped pretty much completely. Halfway on that side and all the way on that side, and it's heavy. That's a heavy frame right there. So this one though, because it's just a single deep, they did put some brood in the middle, which when I pull these outer honey frames, I'll leave that brood frames and I'll just replace them with, I'll replace the ones I pull until this brood emerges. But I plan on overwintering all my hives as a hive and a half, so a deep and a medium. So I'll probably just leave them this way and let them keep that, you know, those brood frames in this super, and then hopefully the next super they won't put any brood up there. But they have a little bit of brood on that one, so they have, yeah, they have brood on that side, whole sheet of brood on that side. So that's 3 frames they put brood in. And that one's all honey. All honey on that side. So, still very happy. They got 3 frames in the middle that are brood. So, that means they got 7 frames that are honey. Probably gonna move this one over a little bit.